Salutations, I'm Zer0 and today we've got a new challenge build for you guys. Now, this is, well, it's very similar to the last two challenge builds, where it was literally me running a weapon because people said it was bad, and not because the weapon actually is a challenge to use. And that's kind of the point of a lot of my videos. Now, the only exceptions were really the infection, and that's really about it. Everything else has performed really well, and even the infection performed pretty well when I ran it. I had a lot of fun with the infection. It wasn't really challenging to push here, mostly because we are using it against enemies that are vulnerable to it, but that's like the whole point of the element system, is it not? Now, the most challenging part was dealing with Dot, because it artificially lowers because of health regen, but eh. Now, here we have the Hawkeye. This sniper is amazing. 600% critical hit damage. It has a decent base damage number. We're getting quite a bit. We're getting quite a bit of damage from this. Now, how do you optimize a weapon like this? It's just crit. So how do you want to optimize it? You want to give it as much base damage as possible. Now, I say base damage. I'm just like, you want to buff its damage. You want to buff its base damage. You don't want to focus on the crit. If you have a lot of crit skills, like you're playing Zer0 and a lot of them are just default there, then cool. You can get away with that. And they're not going to negatively affect you. However, buffing crit isn't going to be as effective once you get into these really high numbers, because diminishing returns. When you get to 600% critical hit bonus, if you are adding +1, +3, +5 to the 600%, it's not going to do squat. But if you're adding to the base damage, that's multiplicative with this critical hit bonus, you are getting a lot more out of it. So once you're at this high, you're gonna want to grab more so skills like one shot, one kill, velocity. I've heard kill confirmed is multiplicative with your other critical hit damage buffs. So if that's the case, then kill confirmed is also really freaking good for this. You're gonna want skills like Rising Shot, you're gonna want Ambush, you're gonna want Death Mark, you want Innervate, you're gonna want like the Wind, those kinds of skills. This way, you're getting a boatload of gun or alternate damage bonuses that are not crit. Now, crit, you can still grab crit. Like Headshot, cool, go ahead. That's really good for that slot. It's better than Optics, in my opinion, just because Optics is literally zoom and aim steadiness after taking damage, whatever. And Killer is nice because of the reload speed, especially in comparison to Precision, which is giving you more accuracy buffs, which for these snipers you probably don't need. So reload speed bonus with Killer. And then grabbing Bore for the crazy damage is just a given. I don't need to talk about that. But one shot, one kill is giving us a lot of gun damage. We are getting, what, like 60%? Yeah, we're getting 60% on one shot, one kill. And then with velocity, we get gun damage. And we get up to like 10%, which is fine. If there are better gun damage skills, then just use those. But it's not a bad skill. Definitely getting points in there is not a bad thing. Getting kill confirmed, if this is multiplicative, we're getting 8% up, and if we have the legendary sniper on, up to 16% critical hit damage per stack. That's, if it is multiplicative, that's a lot of critical hit damage that we're getting from that, because our base is 600, so we are then multiplying it again multiplying and adding it again with the 16 per stack. That's a lot. It's a lot. It's scary. It's scary. But we also want to get skills like Rising Shot, which I've also heard is multiplicative with other damage bonuses, which is amazing. We are getting Ambush, which is a flat damage bonus to everything. We're getting Death Mark, which makes the enemies take more damage, which is also amazing because all of these are separate from critical hit damage. We're getting Innervate, which is gun damage, which is buffing the base gun damage of the weapon. Pretty nice. Pretty nice. We are getting access to, like, the Wind, which I've heard has a different segments of the damage tree. I don't know if it's additive or multiplicative with gun damage, but what I do know is it buffs grenade damage. So, cool. Yeah, we're getting a lot of different bonuses, and it's really cool to see. Now, with this, having all of these different forms of damage, we are very much playing around this critical hit style. So when I was setting up the build that I'm currently using, focused on getting a lot of the general buffs and the critical hit buffs because I'm using a generic sniper build. This isn't meant for me to just plop on a 600% critical hit damage weapon and run. No. This was built for your Cobras and your lower critical hit damage snipers, so that we get those high critical hit damage modifiers. So this specific build isn't optimal for this gun, and it doesn't need to be because this gun is freaking awesome. That is honestly, with how the damage thresholds add up, it wouldn't change too much if we optimize it more for this gun. I will give it a shot eventually, just like customizing a very specific build for it. But I don't really think there's a need. This weapon is just good. You can plop this on a sniper build and do pretty well with it, which is kind of why I'm very surprised that people say that this is a bad weapon. I understand that the loot source for it is terrible, but it's still a good sniper to play with. You're not going to use it to raid boss, but I don't... Let's see here. What raid bosses drop loot that you're using to raid boss? We've got Hyperius and Vermi with the North Fleet. And that's all I can think of off the top of my head. We could get the blockade from the dragons for your shield, which we're using in this video. But outside of that, I don't really know what other weapons you are using intentionally for raid bossing that makes sense for this. I can't really think of that. So that standard's out the window. And then utilizing it for Digi-Peak. Let's think about this for a moment. Digi-Peak is it's supposed to be raid level based content, I suppose. But with it, a lot of enemies are really difficult to precision shot or to crit. You have to get around things for backstab or get around things to shoot at them in general. And so you're not really getting too many critical hits off. So this weapon is at an inherent disadvantage there. Now, I know there are some people who run it with the Lady Fist B shields and that's just like their entire run, but that's still not exactly optimal to run it entirely that way either, because of all of the enemies that suck to critical hit. And so I do have to be like, where is the standard to use this weapon? And if you're not using it in raid content at all, then where are you using it? You're using it for ad clearing, because precision shot snipers with fast fire rate tend to be pretty good at ad clearing. Where else are we using this? We are using this for potentially some bosses, and it does enough damage for it to be worthy to use against a boss. Is it that much better than your other bossing alternatives? Probably not. You have your Lyudas out there, which are really freaking good at it, but they cost a lot of ammo. You have your Lady Fist, which is your other competitor. But honestly, outside of those two, I can't really think of anything that's a big competitor for this weapon when it comes to bossing, or even in general use. This weapon is really freaking strong. Top 3 precision-based snipers, in my opinion, out of the ones that I've played with. I could totally be missing one, and people yell at me in the comments for it. But that, honestly, I don't really have much else to talk about this sniper. It's just an amazing sniper, and I've just been glazing it the entire video. So, we're going to talk about some other things for a little bit, especially since we've gotten to near the end of the video. I want to touch on a couple topics. One, do y'all see that MatPat is going to be going into politics? Now, there were some people who were saying like he's going to run for president or he's going to run for Congress or whatnot. And out of my knowledge, he's pretty smart. So, taking a look at how the system works, it would be more acceptable for him to try and run for a Congress position, and then if he had ambitions to be president, then, and this is in America, to start off as a congressman, then go into politics or for becoming president, that is definitely one of the best routes to run that at. However, the topics that he wants to run on, I don't know if they're gonna get him into office. And as much as I would love for the topics that he's talking about to get him into office, I don't think they're going to. I am very much an advocate for privacy and online privacy, and definitely believe that people should focus more on how to prevent data collection on them, how to protect themselves on the internet, and how to choose products that don't actively sell user data. Look at you, Take-Two, who state in their privacy policy that they sell your data, because that's the biggest one that's got me peeved right now. But that's besides the point. And if you want to go check that out, they actually have a line. There is a mandatory clause that California requires a lot of these companies to state when it comes to the internet, is if they sell user data, and if it has been sold within the last year. And Take-Two has indeed sold user data in the last year. I'm working on a video covering the privacy policy, and it's still taking forever. But I'm gonna talk about snippets until I figure out how I want to word the entire thing. But going back to MatPat, that's one of the topics that got me interested, but I know there's nowhere near as many people who are interested in this sort of thing as I am, which sucks, because in my opinion, people need to be more informed and need to care more about their privacy, because there used to be a time frame where people cared a lot about their privacy, and it used to be a big no-no to walk into somebody's house unannounced, uninvited, and just start recording them. And it's still an issue for people. Like, if somebody gets recorded without consent, people still get ticked. Yet when people get recorded with privacy policy consent, people are freaking cool with it. And nobody actually read the privacy policy to find out that they were being recorded, except for very few people. For the most part, it's people who are defending the companies in general that act like people read these things, and people don't. The amount of people that I've talked to that have been like, oh, it's just a long document, I don't want to read that. Exactly, that's the point. You not reading it has caused the issue. But I'm getting off topic again. That's all we have time for this video, so I hope y'all enjoyed, and see y'all in the next one. Zer0 OP10 signing off.